Hi, kindergarteners and kindergarten moms and dads and guardians. It's Dr. Murillo here, and we would like to take you on your first official tour of Woodhull with our mascot, Billy Floyd. Billy Floyd, as you can see, just entered the front of our building, and he is going to make his way down to our kindergarten pods. So, as you see, you came in, you walked in, and made a right. Billy Floyd just pointed out our nurse's office, which is right when you walk in to your left-hand side. As Billy continues to move down our first hallway, we're going to come across Mrs. Colasar's office, who is our school social worker. She is definitely a wealth of information. As Billy moves down towards our kindergarten pods, we are going to be passing Mr. Miranda's music classroom. We will also be passing Mrs. Brown's music classroom, as well as some of our occupational therapy rooms, physical therapy rooms, Mrs. Teller's classroom, who is our guidance counselor, and the student bathrooms that students will be using if they are not within their classroom. Billy is so excited for you to get down towards the classroom that he's skipping through our halls. As we approach the end of the hallway, you will see that we will now be entering our first kindergarten pod, and we want to be the first ones to welcome you to kindergarten. We are so thrilled to have you, and we cannot wait for you to walk through our doors. Billy's now going to go to each of our classrooms. Here we have Miss Stevens' classroom. Next door to Mrs. Stevens is Mrs. Niblock's classroom. And still within our first pod and next door to Mrs. Niblock is Mrs. Conlon's classroom. Billy's going to make his way down the hallway into our second kindergarten pod. And as you can see, all of our kindergarteners have both of these areas to themselves and are the only grade level on this side of the building. As Billy enters our second pod, he is going to make his first stop at Mrs. Hubert's classroom. Next, Billy's headed to Mrs. Dugan's classroom. And lastly, next door to Mrs. Dugan is Mrs. Rosen's classroom. Thanks, Billy. For our kindergarten friends that will be taking the bus to school, you will get off of the bus in the back bus loop and be greeted by Mrs. Peralta, our assistant principal, as well as myself and all of our staff members. For the first week of school, we will make sure that we have adults to walk you through the building. As you can see, Billy Floyd came on in and made a left into the building to walk his way right back down to our first kindergarten pod. So this is definitely a shorter walk for you to get to your classrooms. Just a reminder, in our first pod, we have Miss Stevens, Mrs. Niblock, and Mrs. Conlon. Billy's just going to show you one more time how to move through our alphabet hallway down into our second kindergarten pod. And as a reminder, in our second pod, we have Mrs. Hubert's classroom, Mrs. Rosen's classroom, and Mrs. Dugan's classroom. While our teachers are still working extra hard to get your classrooms ready, we wanted to be the first to welcome you to your art room with Mrs. Randazzo, your music room with Miss Brown, your music room with Mr. Miranda, your gymnasium, as you can see, which will be split apart by cohorts with Mr. Campbell and Mrs. Carrazzo, as well as to our wonderful Nathaniel Woodhull Library, which you will be able to go to with not only your classroom teacher, but also to get library lessons from Miss Tice. We are still working extremely hard to get our cafeteria ready for you to arrive next week. Our lunch times will look slightly different than normal as we will just be eating with our certain cohort, whether it is in our classroom, our cafeteria, or our multi purpose room. We are so fortunate enough that we have a wonderful, new, large, adaptive playground for our students to play on. During stage one, students will also be given opportunities to play at different recess stations so that there will be no mixing of cohorts during recess time. When the weather is inclement, indoor recess will be held for all of our students.